Hey everybody, what's going on? It is James here with Crypto Common Sense, and I have your daily Bitcoin / cryptocurrency update. Before I jump into the content, please do me a huge favor. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button on this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, if you haven't already, be sure and check that bell icon to get notifications when I release these daily videos. So I just got done shooting you a video, then I went back to edit it, and it was 39 minutes long, and I thought, good Lord, nobody wants to listen to anybody ramble for 39 minutes. So I'm going to reshoot this and try to keep it more concise, and I want to try to cover some trading stuff that you can hopefully use in your trading and help you make better decisions and feel more comfortable about your long positions and your short positions. So in yesterday's video, I mentioned that I was very uncertain or very unsure of Bitcoin and where it was headed short term. Long term, of course, I've been bearish since the summer. I remain bearish. But short term, I was confused whether it was going to first try to move up, maybe up toward the $9,000 area, or move back down towards $6,000 first. So I wanted to wait for Monday, and more specifically Monday's close, which happened about 3 hours ago. And now I have a little better feel of where the market's going. So I'm going to talk about that today, but I'm also going to talk about the big picture and show you some extremely important levels that you should be keeping an eye on, both with Bitcoin and a couple of the altcoins. And I'm going to teach you how to find these levels yourself so that you know what to look for. So the first chart that I want to take a look at is the total market cap chart. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the volume profile. And this essentially shows us how much volume has been traded relative to the other areas of, basically price action. In this case, total market cap. So we can see we have this really large gap down here. If we draw a line down there, we can see that it lines up almost perfectly with our gap right here. So I'm going to remove that because it's kind of messy, but I wanted you to know, hey, there's a gap down there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw what's called a Fibonacci extension. These Fibonacci extensions work extremely well for predicting where a trend is headed and also where it might find resistance along its way. So on the left-hand side of TradingView, it's the tool called Trim-based Fib extension. Here you go. So if we go to the bottom of 2018 and we draw this thing up to the first high right here in April of 2019, here's our first major pullback, okay? So we pull that back down there, and what do we have, right? We have all these lines. These are potential areas that we can look for support and or resistance. Now, the reason I'm showing you the uptrend first is because I want you to understand this works and that it's not just, oh, look, it happens to look good in a downtrend. No, it works both ways, okay? So the 100% target was right up here around 243 billion. You can see that got hit. You can see that this line acted as support, right? The 1.618 extension, boom, it got hit. It then acted as support. And you can see that finally the 2.618 was the ultimate target, right? If somebody had been trading this as an index, which by the way does not exist, but if it was an index and you could trade this, you might very well have been able to find the perfect top here based on this extension tool, okay? That's one way to draw that. Somebody else might look at that and say, you know what? I think this whole thing was the first part of the move. This is my pullback, and I think this is my ultimate target. That's totally appropriate. That works too. And if you look right here, the 23.6 level, guess what? It did act as resistance, and then it flipped to support. We moved up to the 50 level. It acted as resistance. You can see the 38 flipped to support. Moved up to the 78.6, and it never could get any higher, and it started to move back down. But you can see these lines. Look at this. See how important this line was? Perfect, perfect, perfect resistance. Same thing down here. Right here, this was support. Over here, it was resistance. And over through here, it was support. And then it flipped back, chopped right through it. Okay? Cool. So now what we can do is we can actually start looking at the bigger trend on Bitcoin. There's several smaller trends. I talked about a couple of them in past videos. But if we look at the bigger downtrend, if we say that this was our first move, that this was our pullback, then that's going to give us some targets. Now, unfortunately, TradingView has this weird glitch where when you do it like this, it doesn't draw the horizontal lines. So I'm going to actually detach this with a magnet, and I'm going to have to manually put in the numbers, so bear with me. So the top right here was 269.315 billion. So I've got to put that coordinate in. 269.315 billion. That's 6 zeros. Did I get 6 in there? No. I missed the 0. There we go. So now it draws the lines for us. And I want you to look at these lines, right? Came down, found support in the 23, fell through it, and boom. Right shy of that 50, and it bounced, okay? And if we start taking a look at this, I want you to take a look at where that 71.55 billion is. That's the trend target for the total market cap. And that's way down there. That would be a new low, okay? And if you look, I didn't pre-plan this, guys. This is just the way the trend works. If you look at that horizontal line, it is a perfect match for this old high back here from 2017, okay? This is the same area where Bitcoin actually, and you can't see it on the total market cap. It actually did come down and retested, but this is the same area that Bitcoin never came back down to retest in 2017. I'll show you that in a minute. So is that a legitimate target? It is. It's totally legitimate, and I still think it's entirely possible we're going there, okay? So I wanted to show you the total market cap. Now what I want to show you is I want to show you the Bitcoin chart. Okay, so first things first, just to show you that it works the same way, right? Actually, before I even show you that, what I was talking about with that June high, it's right back. Actually, I guess it was in March. My bad. Sorry about that. I may have been off on that. Let's see. That was June. Okay, so no, sorry. Ignore what I said about that previous high being tested. It was way down here. Okay. So June for Bitcoin, where was June's high? June's high was right around here. Okay, 3,000 bucks. All right. So talking about this trend tool, we do the same thing. We draw it up. We say, hey, look, here is our trend, right? We could draw this a couple different ways. With hindsight being 2020, we may say, hey, you know what? This right here is the trend. And if so, you can see it worked really well. Right here was, 8,700 bucks, acted as resistance. Right here around 11,000 acted as resistance, and it never got to the total top, right? The top target or whatever you want to call it. That's one way that you could draw it. Another person may have drawn it like this. And of course, in this case, you can see that same deal. These levels were important, right? All through here, you got support and resistance. Right here, it was resistance. Right here, it was support. And, all that good stuff. Right here was, almost a perfect top. Okay. I think either way is fine. I would prefer personally, if I was drawing that, I would have probably been looking at something like this. Okay. Where, and again, I don't know why it does this, where it doesn't draw the lines. Rather annoying. Okay. 49.01.99. Bear with me here and I'll fix it. 49.01.99, 49.01.99, 49.01.99. Okay, so you can see here, right? This was the target for the trend. The trend target was 8,700 bucks. Then it fell down, it came up, found resistance here, came up, didn't meet the top target. This was resistance, yada, 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 right? Over here is support, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, what I want to look at is I want to look at, there are 3 trends that I've talked about in the past. There's this trend here. If you draw it like this, if you draw the smaller trend, okay, I got to turn my magnet back on. If you draw this small trend, right, target's been hit. There's your one target, right? Our next target, the 1.618 would have been 63.78. That's a smaller trend. There was another small trend here from down, up, right? Then your extension, here's your one, right around 8,200 bucks. That's got an extension of 5,600. And then there's the smaller trend that we're in right now, which looks something like this, okay? Where we're bouncing off the 78. We've come back up to the 61.8, which, by the way, lines up perfectly with the line of resistance that we've been dealing with the last week. And that, of course, has a target down around 2,400 bucks, okay? Which, again, would be a new low. But what I want to talk about today is actually the larger trend, right? If we actually draw this from back here at the top to this low, and then our first 50% pullback, this is where it pulled back 50% off of that entire move, we get something that looks like this. Now I've got to do the same thing where I've got to put in the coordinates because it's goofy. So 10, 5, 40, 49. 10, 5, 40, 49. So annoying. Okay, so there's my lines. Okay, and if we look at this, I like this trend a lot, and I like the information that it's giving us. First off, it looks like we're bouncing off the 61.8, right? It looks like we've moved back up. Interesting thing is we're trying to find support on that 50 level, right, so far today. But whichever way it goes, I don't care so much about that in this particular chart. What I'm looking for is the future targets. And if we look, where's the 78.6? It's right here. What does that do for us? That goes in, it fills in this liquidity gap. It also retests this area of resistance flip support. Perfect. And if it falls through that and we can get down to the 1, the full trend target, look at this. Right? What does that do for us? That actually fills in fact, let me take that one off. That actually fills in the need to go back down and retest. Why isn't my magnet working? What in the hell? That actually fills in the need to go back and retest that neckline. You see how close that is? I like this trend. I like that as my trend target. That's my macro target. And again, I think if we hit that, it'll be early in 2020. I don't think it's going to be this month. I think probably closer to March if we do get down to that level. Really, really like that target. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys this. You know, we're still in a downtrend, and anytime you're in a downtrend, you know, trading with the trend just makes sense. So if you are going to long this, maybe draw this on your chart and start paying attention to these levels, because you can see that every time we draw this, well, good Lord, I got to redraw the whole thing here. Every time we draw this, those levels are important, right? They're well-respected levels, right? When it got down here and it started bouncing, they started acting as support and resistance. And if you moved it over, they did the same thing over here, right? Got down to that 78.6, it got a bounce, right? Played around in between those levels and then fell out, so on and so forth. So I would recommend drawing those. And by the way, part of the reason the last video was 39 minutes is because I started going through all the alts and drawing them on the alts and showing you how well they worked with the altcoins and everything else. So I'm not going to do that again in this video because I don't want to talk for 40 minutes. And you don't want to listen to me talk for 40 minutes, okay? But that's what I'm seeing on the big picture for Bitcoin. I'm still ultra bearish. Nothing has changed, okay? When I take a look at my 3-day chart, you know, this looks a lot like this area back here. We hit the same resistance, found the same level of support, right through here, bounced up, tested the resistance again, and it looks like, and of course, you know, this candle won't close for 2 more days, but it looks like we may be wanting to turn down and retest the bottom of this box again. If we do, I think it's likely that we might go down and test this downtrend, right? This purple line sliding down, that has been our downtrend. It's been extremely accurate on this 3-day chart. You can see how many touches it actually has, okay? That being said, you got to remember that the more times a line of support or resistance is tested, the more likely it is to fail, which means it could just chop right through it, okay? So that's what I'm seeing in the 3-day chart. It all looks very bearish to me. If I'm looking at a daily chart, we were inside this rising wedge in RSI. Yesterday we closed way down here, so we have a close outside of the wedge. It's possible that we might go up and have a bearish retest before moving further down. Hard to say, but right now that looks bearish as well. 4-hour chart, when I look at this thing, this looks like it was in a symmetrical triangle. It looks like it fell out of that triangle, and it looks like right now we're having a bearish retest. Typically, you know, from textbook point of view, what you'll see after a bearish retest is further downside. And if this was indeed a triangle, it actually has a target down around 6,200 bucks. So again, more bearish news. The hourly, it's the same thing, it's just smaller time frame. Okay, so very, very bearish on Bitcoin. Let's take a look at a couple of alts. I don't want to go through too many. My voice is actually, my throat's burning from doing that 39-minute video earlier, so I apologize that I rambled and it wasn't useful. But, you know, same thing on alts. I'm going to start looking at these trends, and when you start drawing these trends, most of them look pretty rough, right? Most of them look like they are probably going to go down to some pretty deep levels. This right here is actually EOS. So if you draw a trend on this, right, there's your trend. This was your 1. Your 1.618 was down here, so it's underneath it. We don't have to worry too much about the 2.618 just yet, because we're nowhere near it. But if it does, you know, start to come into play, that's down around 42 cents. That would be pretty rough. I believe, I can't swear to it, but I believe that would be an all-time low for EOS. It's saying on this chart it would be, but you know, this chart's also saying $1 was its all-time low, and it wasn't. I specifically remember EOS being around 70 or even 60 cents at one point. So Back here, it was down around 54 cents. Okay. So there's actually, interestingly enough, a gap from 2017 at 68 cents. Tiny little gap down there. If we look at Litecoin, you can see my levels that I had drawn from the last video. So these are kind of the levels on this particular downtrend, right? It looks like our target is $37.67. That target makes sense to me. It would basically go down and retest our old neckline. I think it'll probably go a little lower than that. If it gets to that area, I would be looking for somewhere around $35, a little under 35, to fill in this liquidity gap. But yeah, that, I like that target for Litecoin. Somebody asked me to look at Bitcoin Cash. And guys, I apologize. I'm not super organized today. I wasn't at my desk most of the day. I was out with family and stuff. So I don't have the list of alts that you guys asked for. I'm going to try to get to those this week. If I look at Bitcoin Cash, this looks bearish, right? I'm just looking at the chart. If I'm looking at RSI, it doesn't look great. This looks like it's fallen underneath this trend line on RSI, which is not a good sign. If we go back and draw a trend line from, is there a really old trend line we can look at? Let's try to find one. This is from like a year ago. That trend line looks something like that. That's pretty flat. I don't know that I care for that a whole lot. I could come down and retest that, right? Might want to watch for that. Maybe. I think this is the one that I'd be more interested in. If it comes down and retest this, I'd like to see what happens at that point. I would imagine that it should get some type of bounce. But if we're looking at the big picture, again, it's going to be like everything else. It's in a downtrend, right? So if we start drawing Fibonacci extensions, we're going to get the same type of picture. Like if we want to draw this as our downtrend, right now it looks like we're bouncing around the 61.8. The next level is going to be around 152. And the ultimate level will be down around $95. Okay, if for some reason you didn't like that, you want to draw it a little different, there's an argument to be made that you could possibly make this your trend. I don't like that trend personally. The target would be in the negative, so not a fan of that interpretation. I think this one's more valid, right? And I think in that case, again, you start looking at these levels, and when I'm drawing these extensions, what I'm always watching for is, do these levels make sense? Would they match up with old resistance and support, and are they just kind of out in the middle of nowhere? And if you look, that's this line at 152. Yeah, that was support back here. It was support back here. It was resistance. It was resistance, and then it was support. And it was support again. That was a line that basically Bitcoin Cash started its bull run off of that line, or its bull rally, whatever you want to call it. And then this full target, $95. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's basically right here. It was almost a perfect touch. It's basically right down around its all-time low. Okay, so again, I think if Bitcoin goes down to that $4,000 area, well, I think we'll probably see Bitcoin Cash come down and fulfill its trend as well, right down around $95. So that's what I'm seeing on Bitcoin Cash. What else we got? I'd like to take a look at Zcash. I don't think anybody asked for it, but I actually mentioned this in a video about 5 days ago, saying that it looked like it might run up to $30. At the time, it was around $26.80. I said, hey, if it gets closer to 26, I might take a long. Full disclosure, I didn't take the long. I just wasn't really that interested in fighting the trend. I should have took the long, right? It bounced all the way up to $32.55, which doesn't seem like a lot. It's quite a bit, right? I did the video at $26.85, and from there it bounced. I did the video on this day right here on December 4th, and I said, hey, look, it's if this gets down close to $26, it might look good. And it actually got down to $26.64, and then it bounced about 21%. Not too shabby. Should have took that trade, right? I didn't actually mean to forget about it. I just forgot about it, right? If I had taken a trade like that in a downtrending market where I'm trying to go long it would have been no more than 5% of my portfolio. So it's not a huge deal. Even if I had sold it for the full 20%, it would have been basically about 1% gain on my total portfolio. Really good gain. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like snubbing my nose at it, but I'm just saying that I would have taken a massive amount of risk on it. Okay. But I didn't take it. Full disclosure, I'm not going to pretend I did. This is the neckline of that W, right? Down, up, down, up. It's retested that now. So that could be, if it can remain above it, it could be a bullish signal. Again, not interested in trading it, right? I wanted to trade the breakout. I don't want to try to catch it now because I think that if Bitcoin goes down, it'll just yank this right down through that neckline. But if you are a Zcash fan and you do want to go long in this thing, I would say this. If Bitcoin suddenly starts to rally, it is entirely possible that this thing actually tries to rally all the way back up to its 200-day moving average, which is $57 right now, which would mean that would be a rally of around 89%. And you might think, no. Yeah, absolutely. The technical analysis would support that type of rally if Bitcoin gets its big pump. And by its big pump, I'm talking about that pump back up to around $9,000. Okay, I think that's the only environment where Zcash suddenly puts in a 90% gain. So that's what I'm seeing on Zcash. Where are we at on time? We're at 25 minutes. Somebody asked me to look at Link. I've looked at Link a couple of times in the past, so I'll do it real quick, but I don't want to go too in depth because I have done this one before in the last month. Link is basically one of those coins where it doesn't have a lot of history, which leaves you at a little bit of a disadvantage. But when I look at this thing, if I had to put bids in for it, my bids personally are at $1.20, maybe $1.22. Let me look real quick. I got it on my other screen. Looks like $1.22 is what I'm targeting for Link. So I'm gonna have to find one with more history. Is there just not a USD pair for this? What's the deal here? Kraken didn't get it until September. Huh. Okay, I gotta find an exchange that actually has this. I guess we'll do Binance. It'll just calculate it using TradingView. It's not ideal, but it's fine. When I look at this, oh shit, this looks terrible, guys. Okay. This orange line against the 200-day moving average, when you're on top of it, that's always a good sign. When you fall underneath it, what you're watching for is you're watching for what's called a bearish retest. A bearish retest means it breaks through it, comes back up to retest it, and if it fails again and starts to go back down, that's very, very, very bearish. I can't explain that enough. I can't emphasize that enough. Very bad news for a bull if it starts to go back down. What you essentially have right now was it came down, tested it. That's fine. Came up, came down. Here was a bearish retest, and it's trying to test it again. Okay, so if I can come up above it, no big deal. This is probably a false break. But if it stays underneath it, that's probably going to be your textbook bearish retest. Okay, and when I look at that thing, I've been saying this for a month now. $1.22 is the reason I have a bid down there is because what's down there? This big old gap. Okay, if we draw that, use a magnet to get it exact, that gap is at $1.20.86. There is a gap there, which means that it's very likely what you're going to see is price do this, come up for the bearish retest, and then do this, right back down to this level. And then if it falls through that level, there is also a gap right there at 94.7 cents. And that would be the next level that I would be looking for. Other than that, it looks like it had some pretty good price action where it had nice volume, where it was filling in the gaps and retesting old highs, right? You see here how this was a high, it came up, came down, and retested it. That all looks good. That's what you want to see. That's the nice, sustainable structure that we're looking for in a market. This green, what they call green dildo stuff, it's not sustainable. It almost always comes back down to fill that in. So, yeah, if I had to guess, I'd say this is what you're getting ready to see on Link. You're getting ready to see that thing drop. And if it does, that's pretty massive. I don't think I can short that on any of the exchanges I trade on. If I can, I'm going to go open a short position probably. Maybe you can short on Bybit. I don't know. I have an account on Bybit, but I've never traded there. If we measure it, that's a drop of about 45%. Definitely going to look for an exchange I can trade this on, okay? That's what I see. So RSI itself actually looks pretty good, right? RSI looks pretty good. This looks like a W, okay? So again, I would definitely wait for this candle to close. I wouldn't jump the gun on this if it was me personally. I don't want to enter into a trade until this candle closes and I make sure that it doesn't break back above that. If I look at it on a 4-hour chart, oh, that looks like shit. That's shooting straight up like that. It's entirely possible that it's just going to come up to this and then fail. Probably not. That's about 30-cent pop. It'd be a pretty big jump still. Where is that daily at? The daily is at 222. Price is at 217. See, I don't think it'll get that high. Where's hourly? Hourly is already into the overbought area. 12-hour looks pretty good. What's 3-day look like? 3-day looks okay. Not great, but not terrible. Is there any kind of trend line here? Like I said, I was going to be quick, but this caught my interest. I think this is a valid trend line. Look at this, right? Look at that. Bam. There's a touch. Here's your first touch. So you got a potential trend. Boom, your third touch. Had a little bit of a false break underneath it, but it's bounced back above it. So I would, again, I think it really depends on where today closes at. If you look at this, it closed underneath it on the 3rd. These are 3-day candles. And then the December 6th candle closed underneath it as well. So this candle right here, if it closes back underneath it, I'd say it's probably doomed for a little while. But if it can close on top of it, maybe not. Maybe it can climb back above the 200 moving average and find support, right? If we look at it daily, does that daily trend line have anything? Not really. I mean, maybe a little bit, something like this. Kind of something like that, right? Kind of looks like it broke above it there. I don't think I'm going to jump into a short on it. I think there's enough signs that says, maybe not. I think I'll just wait, see where it closes at today. But if it looks good when it closes, yeah, I might go short on it and then just have a tight stop loss. Let's see, what's the weekly look like? Oh, Lord. Okay, well, that weekly looks terrible. Nothing confirmed yet, but that is a potential double top trying to occur, okay? Price would have to get down through $1.60. Right, well, shit, let's use a horizontal line. If price gets through $1.60, yeah, that would be very bearish. Okay. Okay, over half an hour again. I'm rambling, I guess. I don't know if I'm rambling or if I'm just, talking a lot. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please remember, I am literally some guy sitting in a spare bedroom, so nothing in this video is financial advice. Nothing in this video is trade advice. You should always do your own due diligence before making any type of investment in cryptocurrency. If you haven't already, please be sure and hit the thumbs up button on this video. Don't forget, you can check the description for links where you can follow me on TradingView, Twitter, where you can join my free Facebook group, and also where you can join my trading course if you want to learn how to trade. This is James with Crypto Common Sense. Trade safe.